You're listening to Talk of Champions, an Ole Miss Spirit podcast with Ben Garrett.
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time!
What's going on, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Talk of Champions with my friend Ben Garrett. I'm Billy Embody. He is in that studio with a little house.
RiverLand Roofing Studios. RiverLand Roofing powers everything we do at Talk of Champions. So much of what we do at the Ole Miss Spirit. OMSpirit.com, affiliate of On3, RiverlandRoofing.com, 662-644-4297. They're the people to call. Billy Landis and company are the best, man. They've done so much for us for the last couple years. And yeah, man, show the little house up top some love, riverlandroofing.com. I got to get a chair again, though, Billy, that kind of raises me up a little bit so you can still see the stuff. I changed chairs. I'm still kind of sitting a little down. I don't like it. It's not the same because you can't see that little house up top. But we're good vibes only today. We're not going to worry about how small Ben's chair is, how he had to put on a hat because his hair just wasn't being cooperative this morning. We're here to talk about Sean Padula and Ole Miss basketball advancing the SEC tournament. We're here to talk about Ole Miss baseball opening against number 3 Arkansas this weekend starting today, as well as some recruiting updates because spring football opens on March 18th. So our thanks to RiverLand Roofing, but I'm going to tell you something, my friend. I'm fired up. I'm fired up because this is the offseason.
Weekend.
It's a busy weekend, and you got to cherish these in the spring because, you know, once fall football rolls around, it feels like there's something every single day, multiple. I mean, it's nonstop. So when we get these times of like full-on Ole Miss immersion, get fired up, embrace it, get in your little RiverLand corner and put the TV on, man. Yeah, tap in because it's time to go. And once we finally start doing live watch parties, I think Billy had kind of mentioned this. We're going to do a live watch party, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to speak out of turn for Billy here, for the live or the NCAA selection show on Sunday from Funky's. Are we going to do that?
We got to figure out how to do that, but we want to go and react kind of shortly after and see who we can pull.
We're going to do. I know this. I'm going to take the RiverLand camera. I'm going to shoot the whole thing. I'm going to build a package on like the day that was. But if we can figure it out, me and Bill want to go live so many times. Like we want to go live anywhere we are because it's fun. It's more fun. It's more immersion. And for weekends like this, it's pretty special.
Yeah. Speaking of special, Sean Padula shot to beat Arkansas. Send them packing in the SEC tournament on Thursday. Now we set up for a Friday matchup against Auburn in just a couple hours. They get the noon Central matchup with number 1 Auburn, but that 83-80 win over Arkansas. You said it on the message board at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com. Head over there for just $1 for your first week to join us. I mean, one of the best shots in Ole Miss basketball history, one that's going to go down in the record books.
Yes. Now, obviously, we got to see what they do the rest of the way. Yeah. They could just run into the Auburn buzzsaw today. And let's be honest here, Ole Miss has not been particularly competitive with Auburn this year. Now, more the first game than the second game. The second game, 106-76 at their place. Ole Miss got ran out of the building. So it might not mean – it's not going to mean as much if they go and lose to Auburn as the Jason Harrison shot in the NCAA tournament. It's not going to be the same as even like Clarence Davis hitting that shot against LSU when Brian Smith got him the pass. I mean, there are so many iconic shots, but this shot – it falls right into that. It falls right into that memorable moments for Ole Miss basketball. And what was so great about it is that it came not because Ole Miss had to have it, right, as far as like the win, but because this team is playing. They went to Nashville, locked into the NCAA tournament. They're no worse than an 8 seed. Look at that. Oh, it's just a sight for – it's perfect. That's what you look for with March Madness. That's what you look for Chris Beard to bring to Ole Miss is this celebratory big moment in March moments, and Ole Miss is providing that. That's why I said that, because Sean Padula's shot very well could end up being just like a Jason Harrison shot, just like a Clarence shot, just like Chris Warren's shot against Kentucky. Chris Warren's shot against Kentucky was a singular moment, so you can at least appreciate this singular moment for what it was, because Sean Padula and Ole Miss are entrenched in the March fight, and they're not going anywhere. They're here to win. They're here to play. They said they're going to Nashville to win as many games as possible. It doesn't get any harder than Auburn on the second day. But what a day for Ole Miss yesterday, an iconic shot that will be played over and over again. And it was most special because Ole Miss didn't need it like they needed, in 2013, some upset wins over Missouri and last-second wins over Florida to get into the NCAA tournament. What made it special is that it was just an introduction of, this team is here for March. This team is here to make a run. Now we'll see what they do. Again, the Auburn game is of less consequence than what this means for the month ahead. Because next week in the NCAA tournament selection, they're going to be a 7-8 seed. Last I saw, ESPN had them going to the West region in Spokane, Washington. So in that scenario, man, that'd be a hell of a trip for Ole Miss fans to have to make. But this is a team that has shown, just like last night or yesterday afternoon, in defeating Arkansas, a hot team, had won, I think, 5 of their last 6, something like that. And really have a viable case for the NCAA tournament themselves. You look at this league, Billy.
Oh,
and we've been talking about it, and I don't want to, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but the fact that 14 of your 16 teams could get into the NCAA tournament
nuts.
I mean, it ends the discussion. It's the best basketball conference regular season of all time. And Ole Miss not only was a part of that fight, but was like entrenched in that fight, which I think is a testament unto itself. That in year 2, last year, it was 20 wins and right there on the bubble, but they weren't really, at the end of the year, there was no chance that was an NCAA tournament team. They fell apart. This team, despite some losses, 3 straight losses at times, in the toughest SEC, still won 10 in this league, the toughest league that's ever been. And then to go into the first round of the SEC tournament, play a fun game. Yeah, if you're an Ole Miss fan, it gave you like heart palpitations because they jump out by like 11, 15. You're thinking, oh, just do it away. But that's what you sign up for in March, is those special moments. Ole Miss has a guy in Sean Padula who isn't afraid of those moments, who's comfortable, who knew he had to go, quote, get a bucket. That's what the man said. And he went and got a bucket, and it'll be immortalized forever. So what a great start to the madness for Ole Miss, because again, this is what you signed up for. This is what you as an Ole Miss fan have been begging for, right? This is what you got Chris Beard for. This is all of it. This is why you're worried about Chris Beard going to Indiana or wherever. Like it's because of these kinds of moments that he brings, which Ole Miss basketball just isn't used to. But here they are on the cusp of their 10th all-time appearance. But first, they get another shot at Auburn. I don't think it's going to go much better than the first 2 shots, but this team, now that it's March, you could see a little bit of a competitive edge to them. Don't you think? I mean, Malik Dia looked
100%.
like the Malik Dia that started SEC play as one of the best players looked like in college basketball, puts up 14 in the first half of his 19, team leading 19 in the first half. And Davin Barnes was one of 5 who scored in double figures for Ole Miss, which is by design. They're always going to have about 5 guys if they're playing to their potential. But Davin Barnes contributing in that way, shooting one of his very few threes of the year and making it. Did so many things well, and then it came down to Sean's shot. So, yeah, man, one of the best. It was just a fun way to get it started. Like, because in March, hope springs eternal, and this team's going to be in the fight.
Well, in Malik Dia, I mean, you mentioned him. This is his time to kind of cement himself as an actual name in March and for his like long-term future. You know what I mean? Like Sean Padula, like recognizable name, Ole Miss, all those things. But Malik has been great, but he's also been up and down. And he's kind of, you feel like a little bit maybe in the doghouse at times, for stepping all the way out and playing out on the edge or what have you. But this is that time where you can totally change your life with a few select moments or a few select plays and how you play. And so that's exciting for Malik. I mean, he's a guy that's certainly a, poster for, the NIL world that we live in these days. And man, if he delivers in March, I mean, what a great return on investment. And look, the bracketology, this is the fun part about championship weekend, is you've got so many different ways this can go. You mentioned going out west to Spokane. Another bracketologist has them, playing in Denver as the 5 seed, and that was just after the Arkansas win. So you could see it fluctuate. I mean, goodness gracious, if they get that win over Auburn today, and hey, Auburn lost to Alabama just last week, so I mean, anything's possible. with that team, I guess, right? That gives you just that glimmer of hope that can certainly let you down in the end at times. But, this is one thing about these conference tournaments I thought it was interesting is somebody was telling me, look around the country at three-point shooting and how in these big arenas and different environments, it can kind of go cold, and who knows how that impacts, games and getting hot and doing all those things. So you roll the ball out there, you see how it goes, but Ole Miss has teed itself up well. I mean, that was a big win for seeding. And as Chris Beard's been saying for the last, 2 months now, they're playing for seeding. They're playing for where they're going in the NCAA tournament, not if they're going to the NCAA tournament.
That's the best point, because that's what he said at his press conference, introductory press conference. Everyone's like, get into the NCAA tournament, get into the NCAA tournament. And he's like, look, guys, that's what I'm hired to do, and I'm taking it very seriously. But also, like,
I'll be gone in a few years if not.
But for him, the point is like not to be playing to get in. That's day one stuff. For him, it's playing for seeding, not sweating the bubble and not being a bubble team. And Ole Miss has been a perennial bubble team its entire existence, it seems like. But this team believes in what it can be, believes in what it can do. And I think it's notable that they went to the SEC tournament not resting on their laurels. You got John Calipari coming out there saying, look, we don't care about the SEC tournament. We don't care about it, blah, 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 blah. Well, you don't care about it if you lose, right? But if you win the games, and for Ole Miss, it's a complete free shot. And if you get to go play with this kind of freedom in the SEC tournament, it's a different style of play. And you saw that. I mean, they were playing wide open. If they lost to Arkansas, it wouldn't have mattered as far as their NCAA tournament projections. They're still the same. They're going to be a 7 or 8 seed, maybe a 9. No, they're not going to be a 9. They wouldn't have fallen to double digits. They're locked into a single digit, spot. And this team honestly has a legitimate gripe about they're not being valued enough for what their seeding should be.
Yeah.
Right. Like, this is a team that has an incredible body of work. You take the Tennessee win, the Alabama win, those are great. But look at the non-con wins. Look at Louisville and BYU. Louisville's still doing that thing. This is a team that has a lot of impressive resume building wins that even if they'd lost to Arkansas, that is not shaking them out of the conversation because their resume is so good. This is what Chris Beard was talking about when he was hired, being in the position, building the program to a place where they're not thinking about making it in, sweating the bubble. They're playing for seeding, and that's what they're doing. And they've gone to Nashville to try to win the thing. They're going to win it. That's what's so fun about it. It isn't the directive of you got to win it to make it the tournament. This is just a team that believes in what it can be, trying to win as many games in March as possible. And that's what Chris Beard envisioned at Ole Miss. That's what so many at Ole Miss were like, well, you haven't quite seen how difficult it can be at Ole Miss. And yet in year 2, look what he's done. He's done exactly what he said he was. So that's the best point, is that you're getting exactly what you brought Chris Beard in to do. The fact that in year 2 and completely turning the roster over again, and they're playing for fun and seeding in the SEC tournament in Nashville is a testament to the coaching job unto itself. Like, I was listening to Bruce Pearl on the SEC Network, Bill, and he was mentioning all these coaches, well-deserved, that deserve to be considered for Coach of the Year. And he didn't mention Chris Beard. And Chris Beard deserves some recognition for Coach of the Year in the SEC as well. Unfortunately, this is the toughest year in the SEC ever, and so many tremendous coaching jobs. And Ole Miss won 20 games. They didn't have as far to go maybe for that kind of recognition. But if you look at what Chris Beard has done, completely turning the roster over, I mean, guys that he valued last quarter, like Musa Cisse, are playing for Memphis now.
Yeah.
This was hard evaluations, hard movement and decisions that he had to make. And it's all come together, and they've got the shot creator that can really bring those March moments in Sean Padula because he has the courage, like Chris Beard said yesterday. So it was just a really great all-around Ole Miss moment. Win or loss, it was a fun game. The SEC tournament, you're seeing an early preview of March, or the NCAA tournament in the SEC tournament. These are some of the best teams in college basketball, and Ole Miss is among them. It's an absolute testament to Chris Beard, man, and those players too. And you mentioned Malik Dia before I wrap up my little monologue here. Malik Dia still has a year of eligibility remaining.
Yep.
He could come back. Now, I would be surprised if he comes back. I know he wants to go pro. He was trying to use this year as a springboard to the NBA. He tested the NBA draft waters last spring, really almost went. So he's been right there on the cusp of trying to get his career started for a while now. But it could behoove him to return and be the centerpiece for Ole Miss basketball next year. We'll see. But the point is like this isn't just a last ride team potentially. Yes, they've got a lot of seniors. TJ Caldwell's been in the portal. I don't know what my guy Hayes Fawcett was doing. That man's been in the portal since November. You know what I mean?
He left the team in November. He's formally,
come on. Come on.
I know.
But across they're losing a lot, but also John Bowl. They still love what they could have in John Bowl. Eduardo Klofke gave them great minutes yesterday as far as defense. And then if you could build it around a centerpiece of Malik Dia, these are all the things these are the conversations you want to be having in March. Not, oh God, well, they got to beat so-and-so, and so-and-so's got to lose to so-and-so. This is like, look what they've built. How good could it be? And then forecasting for the future. It's just a tremendous coaching job. Bruce Pearl, next time you're talking about Coach of the Year candidates in the SEC, at least show a little bit of love to my guy, Chris Beard. because he deserves that kind of recognition.
Well, and for your Malik Dia comment, show me the money. Say it. Show me the money.
It's about that paper. Yeah. It's about that paper. Maybe the greatest threat is a school coming in and go, well, yeah, we'll pay him $1 million. I don't know. Yeah. But Malik Dia could be a great center. That's just something we'll be following later, like what this team could be. Or first thing we're going to be following is Chris Beard going anywhere. I mean, let's be real. Like that's what we're going to be paid attention to.
I feel like it's quieted down. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like they're going after Clemson's coach. Like, I feel like that's feels real. And like, but if he turns them down or whatever, then it could get more serious with Chris Beard. Look, the bottom line is like Chris Beard has not denied that he's or not taking his name out of consideration for this. He could have done like Dusty May. He could have come up and said, hey man, I'm here.
Stop talking about me.
Yeah, but he's like most other coaches, and I don't blame them. Like you're one man branding, you're one man business, bro. You got to look after
get his money.
Get your money. Float your name.
Get more NIL money committed to you.
Yeah, I mean, what motivated Ole Miss fans the most as far as the NIL era in football when Lane really flirted with Auburn, and he was like, "Well, we need $10 million in the NIL fund," and Ole Miss, like almost holding Ole Miss fans for ransom. And Ole Miss fans not only responded, they went above and beyond. So I'm not worried about Ole Miss's commitment to any sport or keeping whoever they want, players, coaches. Ole Miss has shown that in the NIL era, it can step up into those things. I would encourage the fan that is worried about it to give up that worry. That at this point, Ole Miss is in a different place.
Yes,
he's in a different place. Yeah, Will Wade's already being floated for NC State. But I promise you, if Ole Miss came open tomorrow, Will Wade's going to be here, or he's going to be top 3 candidate.
Yeah, you got to watch Clemson too. There,
exactly. Like
alma mater.
You got to see it. You got to see how the dominoes fall. Right. We don't know how all the dominoes are going to fall, but however they fall, Ole Miss is going to be fine. And it's a testament to Chris Beard and what he's done in year 2 with a program that, I mean, only a couple years ago, winning 3 games in the SEC and in the toughest SEC ever, won 10. And I mean, it's been a blast of a year. If you haven't gotten Ole Miss basketball this year, I venture to say it's going to be hard for you to ever get an Ole Miss basketball.
Yeah.
So like either, crap or get off the pot, right?
Yeah.
Like this is
make time or don't. Yeah.
Yeah. This has been exactly what you wanted them to do. Yeah. This is it. They're doing everything and more. What you always hope. Like I want to be firmly in the NCAA tournament. I want to be
done.
Blah blah blah. Here you are. Now, are you going to do your part? Are you going to show up in Spokane, Washington? God, I hope it's not Spokane. What's the other option he threw out there?
Denver. And
I've never been to Denver, and man, that feels like my total vibe.
I've never been either. This is a great opportunity for some Ole Miss fans to work with our friends at Status Jet. Round trip discount when you mention Ole Miss Spirit. Get ready. They can already help you plan out your NCAA tournament and March Madness trip, because they don't require a membership. You can do a one-off. You can do a special trip with family, friends, or do it for work. Write it off. But this is the way that you want to travel, whether you live in Oxford or wherever in the country. They can get you from point A to point B with a level of luxury. They can even bring your pets. They can set up experiences for you. But if you're looking to do March Madness and you want to have it all planned out, and don't need to stress about getting plane tickets, StatusJet is the way to go. So go to statusjet.com for more and see what they can do for you and set up that trip of a lifetime for March Madness.
I'm just saying, if somebody wants to take the Ole Miss Spirit crew on StatusJet, we'll go. We'll turn it into all the content. Yep. We'll make you a character on Talk of Champions. Like,
we'll be sitting in the lavatory to get our spot.
Well, slow down. We ain't joining no Mile High clubs together, Bill. Yeah, calm down. But we can sit in those nice leather seats, like, hey, it's Ben, and there's Bill, and this is so and so who put us up in StatusJet, and we'll fly to Spokane, Denver. Man, I'll go anywhere. I was going to go to the SEC tournament this year because I used to always go to the SEC tournament. I remember covering Zach Graham in the SEC tournament, and it's changed because the SEC tournament now is just a nice footnote in an overall successful season. So we're thinking about
for the price gouging of NCAA tournament travel.
Oh my gosh, man! We might have to see Jake and put Jake up in a Quality Inn or two. You know what I mean? But
one of those extended stays.
Yeah, extended stays, microtels. You know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe Microtel wanted to sponsor Talk of Champions. We'll put Jake in a microtel. All I'm saying is if we can get there, we're gonna get there. And if anybody wants to hook it up on status, I know. See, Ole Miss fans, I've said this before. The reason why it succeeded in the NIL era is what is Ole Miss? What is the your state buddies always made fun of you. Well, we're in jeans and jeans and Carhartts, and y'all are doctors and lawyers. Well, what do doctors and lawyers always have? Money. So if anybody out there want to throw Ginger
we need a law firm.
Want to throw Ginger Shrek in a private jet to Spokane, Washington, or Denver, so we can really feel how the vibes are in Colorado. By all means, we're not going to turn it down. We're going to make it big. So yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. The NCAA tournament, there's no postseason like it. Yeah. Like, it's still of all the things that have changed in college sports, it's the one that still feels like every game matters and they give a crap. Like, they really care. Like, they're playing for all of it. Like, every game has that because it's winning. It's the best postseason that any sport has. 100%. And now Ole Miss is in that postseason firmly. So again, hats off to Chris Beard, Sean Padula having the courage to say, man, I got to go get a bucket. It's March. And my man went and got a bucket. It was, what a incredible, unforgettable moment that was. But let's hope, as far as for this show, for the Ole Miss fan, for the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, you can sign up for $1. Let's hope that was just the start of an epic, epic March.
No doubt about it. And look, speaking of epic, I mean, this is a big time of year. You've got SEC baseball starting. Ole Miss welcomes Arkansas. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes, but let's get to a little bit of spring football talk. You've been breaking down depth charts. Jake's been breaking down positions. We're getting everybody all lathered up for spring football, or whatever spring football looks like at Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin. But they are going to hold practices, and then they're going to hold Meet the Rebels Day instead of doing a spring game. And I've said this, I think the spring is a great time for your program to connect with the fans. Like, if I was colleges around the country, every practice would be in the stadium, be an hour, people can watch, get some things accomplished, work the guys out.
Let them hit some bags.
Yeah, just work on fundamentals and do some 7-on-7 and be done. And people can come out and see the guys and get autographs after or whatever. So I like the Meet the Rebels thing, especially since you're not going to do a spring game. Yeah,
it's a great alternative because last year I really appreciate Lane Kiffin's always been forward thinking in this portal era, man. He's always, like I've said it before, during COVID, he went to Canada and started bringing in transfers before anybody else went and brought in transfers. Dean Leonard, who's the other one? I've already lost the name. Tavares Robinson. I can't have lost his name. Anyway, point is, went and got transfers out of Canada. He's always been forward looking in the portal. He's also been forward looking in how to structure things. And this whole great debate about, do you have spring games? Well, Lane's been off the spring game train for a long time. I mean, last year
the Lane train left.
He was off that. I mean, last year they were all eating competitive hot dogs against Joey Chestnut. That was great for what it was. It was an event, but it doesn't have to be that kind of big, huge thing. It can be as simple as, hey, let these fans get to know these players again. I mean, Meet the Rebels hasn't happened since 2019. That used to be a staple. Look, I grew up going to every Meet the Rebels. I remember when Eli Anning, the greatest U Albany football player to ever exist, greatest quarterback to ever come through New Albany, Mississippi, goes to Ole Miss, becomes a fullback, wears number 7, and everybody's running out there to meet like Romero and Deuce and them. And the first person Ben Garrett and his brothers are going to see, little Ben Garrett and his shaved head, which looked terrible for a redhead, we're going to see was Eli Andy. You see what I'm saying? Like there's this connection, there's this connective tissue because that was a guy from my hometown. And then Joe Gunn was from Amory. So, the little Chase Palms of the world are running over to see, Joe Gunn from Amory. Pick your guy. And that's been a little bit lost in this new transfer culture. And I really appreciate the simplicity of just, hey, bring Meet the Rebels back.
Yep.
Bring Meet the Rebels back for the first time in 6 years. There's no more, 6 feet distance and wear a mask. This is just, you go see your Eli Andy and go run over to him, take a picture, dap it up, put it on your wall. That's how you build long-standing connections with especially younger fans. I think if you walk around now, it's kind of disheartening how the younger generation doesn't have the same type, or at least in my experience, and I don't want to speak in broad swaths here, even though I'm going to, but they don't have the same connectivity as we did coming up. You know what I mean?
Attendance is down nationally, just an overall thing.
So, and you're like, oh, what do we got to do? We got to reach them in Twitch streams. We got to reach them in this, that, and the other. Bring back Meet the Rebels.
Yeah, they just want to meet people.
They just want to come take a picture with Lane Kiffin. They want to put their picture. They want to try to get you to say something funny in their 2-second interaction so they can put it on TikTok. That's how you build it out. So again, forward thinking. Even when it's something as simple as, well, what can we do? Oh gosh, maybe we should go do like a like the gladiators. Remember like Laser and all them? We could do like a gladiators course or something like that. American Gladiators. No, just bring Meet the Rebels back. Just bring it back and let them get to know you. And I think it's it was a brilliant, if simple stroke. It was brilliant and exactly what Ole Miss in 2025 needs to be using as its capper to spring football. Now, during the practices, they're going to be practicing. That's why it's closed to everybody. Like we only get Tuesday viewing. That's all we're getting. We're getting Tuesday, which is like, dang it, man. Like I wanted to go out there. I was really ready to park it and watch TJ Banks for 15 days. You know? I want to, but it's fine. It's Lane's program. Who cares? And we'll talk about it anyway. Point being is they're going to get their work done, but Meet the Rebels. What a perfect way in 2025 to cap. Because like I said, Dan Lanning's over there at Oregon saying, look, as long as I'm here, we're going to play spring games.
Yeah.
But I would argue that even playing those spring games, he's not going to really go balls to the wall and cut it loose. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be very vanilla. And I think this is more rewarding for the fan experience to Meet the Rebels, or in the case of Oregon, be Meet the Ducks than, a traditional spring game. And eventually this is all going to go to OTAs anyway, organized team activities, just like the NFL. At some point, that's where it's going. And this is just kind of another step in that process. But Lane, it was the perfect bridge, to whatever the future is going to be. Oh man, how can we top Joey Chestnut? You don't have to.
No,
y'all are enough as a draw by yourselves. You know what I mean? Like, even if it's, and I'm not just talking about, everybody wants to take a picture with Austin Simmons. You know how many people are going to be so excited just to go from Lake Cormorant to drive over here and go hang out with Cam Franklin, Jacoby Hobson?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love it.
Yeah, it's something that never needs to go away. That connectivity is what makes college sports special and what separates it from professional. So hats off. I've taken a hat off. I'm not taking it off again because, again, the hair is atrocious. But first took a hat off for Chris Beard, Lane Kiffin. Simple straw. I didn't even think about it. I forgot that Meet the Rebels existed. So, yes, bringing it back in that way. And it also allows you to really structure your recruiting visits in a very strategic way. So that's we'll never know who's there. But there's layers to this, Bill. There's layers to this.
There's Thursday, there's Saturday practices.
You and I are gonna be there on a Tuesday. Where's Landon Duckworth, and they're not gonna be there. Oh, because they were here on Thursday when you didn't get to show up. Yeah,
they are having a big 4-star prospect hit campus on Tuesday when we're there. So hey. This is a big deal as they're getting Gavin Sidwar in to visit Ole Miss. He is a 4-star prospect, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, an on 300 member who is really, kind of emerged as one of the top options. We've talked a lot about Landon Duckworth. He's QB1, number 1 target. Ole Miss looks like the favorite there. They're getting the last official visit, like we talked about earlier this week. But Gavin Sidwar is an interesting prospect because he's out of Pennsylvania, so quite the trek to Oxford, but he's checking out Ole Miss, headed to Missouri on Thursday, and then Syracuse next week. So those are 3 schools that have really emerged along with Iowa and UCLA. And he's also teammates with another big Ole Miss target on the offensive line out of the same high school, of course, and that is Grayson McKeehaw. I think I got that one, but a big offensive tackle. Kind of seems like he might end up at Penn State, but he is scheduled to come check out Ole Miss at some point as well. He's another 4-star prospect. So Ole Miss has really gone national in terms of pursuing some of these prospects, kind of digging around and seeing who they could come up with when it comes to, national names and seeing who ends up being the prospects that are going to say, okay, I'm going to come to Oxford, Mississippi and play for Lane Kiffin and play for this staff, be in that offense or be in that defense and play in that front 7 that led the nation in sacks last year. So they're kind of kicking the tires and seeing who kind of floats to the top as far as top targets and true, genuine interest over the course of spring ball. Then we'll really see more and more official visits get locked in. I mean, it seems like every other day we're seeing prospects lock in those official visits and, get those dates set. I was just at Under Armour New Orleans where, we learned a lot as far as official visitors and where things stand for different prospects. But when you look at how Ole Miss is stacking up these visits, they're kind of sprinkling like a few Louisiana top or Mississippi top targets on every weekend, and then they're going and bringing in some of those national guys each weekend. So it's a really interesting approach. I'd be intrigued to talk more with some folks over there in the Manning Center about their approach to that, because you look at the last weekend of June, it's looking like, Jamison Powell, their wide receiver commitment, Reese Wise and Landon Duckworth, the 2 top quarterback targets for Ole Miss, in my opinion, are going to be in town. Bryce Gilmore, which Ole Miss is being heavily involved with out of Prosper, Texas. Another J.J. Mays out of Pflugerville, Texas. 2 big offensive linemen. So they've kind of stacked up these visit weekends in a really interesting way. And guess what? We're just 2 weeks into March. So a lot of time for this to develop and for the Rebels to add more to that official visit group.
Who do you think is the closest to committing next? That's the only question I get. Like I walk.
Who's next? If you're wrong, damn, you don't know anything. But
doesn't matter.
It's really interesting because back in January, Jamison Powell got a visit from George McDonald, and that sealed it. Now, he'd been to campus a couple times. He was already high on what the offense could do for him, but he committed January 22nd. And this is a guy that has taken a visit to Sacramento State. He's, probably going to end up popping up on another college campus at some point because these kids get bored. But no one would
go to Sacramento State.
Yeah, he's right down the road for him. But nobody would have guessed him as the next to commit. But I do think this is timing up well for maybe a Mississippi prospect to end up committing in like on a spring visit and then coming back to recruit for his official visit. And I'm going to go with Preston Crump. I think Preston Crump could be one on the defensive side of the ball who could pop over the next several weeks. He's supposed to visit, I believe, March 22nd and then 26th or something like that. He's really back to back with it. And then he's got his official visit set already for this summer. Another prospect I'm watching on the offensive side of the ball, we just talked to him in New Orleans, and that's Julius Mathis out of Holmes County. I tell you, probably out of the prospects that obviously I've got my list of who I was excited to see and who we needed to see and who we needed to kind of get eyes on, Julius Mathis was one of the more intriguing ones. He has kind of an interesting offer list where he's got Ole Miss right in there. They're coming after him hard. They're his leader. But then he's got some group of fives that are really recruiting him hard. But, man, he looks so comfortable running routes. Really, really impressive the way he set things up. Very versatile tight end. Could play outside. Once he adds weight, he could really play in the box a little bit more. So, like Julius Mathis a lot on the offensive side of the ball, that's one that I'm watching here because, if Ole Miss kind of puts the press on both of those guys to jump on board, I could see it happening. And they're both kind of sleeper Mississippi guys that could jump in and start recruiting and kind of ride the wave.
Well, Jaraylen McCoy is not Mississippi sleeper. He's a 4-star, and Hayes Fawcett reported yesterday he's down to 5: LSU, Auburn, Florida, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss. I bring him up not to tell you who his top 5 is because you can figure that out on Twitter. I bring him up because, man, when he decommitted, or like he seemed like he was on the verge of committing to Ole Miss like a month and a half ago, right? So as far as this top 5 and where Ole Miss fits into it, do you think Ole Miss is in a leading position, or do you think Ole Miss is more in a you're with the group and, best of luck as y'all battle it out kind of deal?
I'm really interested to see how this one goes because obviously was committed to LSU, backs off that, opens things back up, but he almost has now kind of turned his recruitment's direction a couple different ways in just like maybe a month. He dropped his LSU commitment. It seemed like Ole Miss was going to swoop right in, get him on board, like you said, and that was the case. I mean, that was really what we were kind of told by Jaraylen. So for him to then say, okay, I'm going to take my official visits, and he's going to take the official visits are Auburn in May, Florida at the end of May, Ole Miss June 6th, and then Texas A&M and LSU are in the works. I'm intrigued to see in a loaded defensive line class in Mississippi, does he end up being a top target? Like, does he end up being a can't miss, can't let him leave, all those things? Because he's about as pretty as they come, like in terms of body type, but he also has some things to work on the field, and that's something that I think maybe is something to at least just keep an eye on here. Like Nolan Wilson, he's in 5-star range. He's a no doubter. They're going after him. They're recruiting him the hardest. But Jaraylen McCoy is just interesting. Like really, really just intrigued to see kind of what the aftermath of wherever he goes. But Ole Miss, he named LSU as leader, but I don't know if LSU would be the place where he'd end up right now. It's just one of those weird recruitments that I guess we're very, very much used to in the SEC at this
Welcome
point.
to Mississippi recruiting.
Yeah, that too.
Same as it ever was.
Yeah.
Mississippi recruiting.
Yep.
This is like a stacked group in Mississippi, and Ole Miss is it would do well to really plant his flag this year. Like I've said this before on the podcast, to plant his flag this year, but next year too, because these next 2 classes are some of the deepest Mississippi has ever produced. So I think not just about getting your fair share of these great players this year in Mississippi, but what it would mean then for next year as well, as Lane Kiffin and company are putting a renewed interest on. Ole Miss is always going to be, second chance you. It's always going to be, the preeminent portal spot, but they've lacked in how they've built out their roster as far as developmental guys that have followed the track and then become a guy for them down the road. And I think they're trying to not rebuild it, because it's not like they had to strip it to the studs, but right, in a way, be better, more efficient. And that includes, really going hard at Mississippi and trying to be the team in your own state that is the obvious choice. Because again, in 2025, Mississippi recruiting is the same as it ever was. Kid from Tupelo, which is 40 minutes away from Oxford, Mississippi, Ole Miss is battling LSU, right? So trying to find that balance of being the in-state option, being Ole Miss has won 10 games in 3 of the last 4 years, but I think what really hurt them this year not making the college football playoff is guys like Jaraylen McCoy, because Ole Miss is having unprecedented success, but still you're fighting the stigma even in your own state of, well, you're Ole Miss compared to, oh, this is LSU has offered me, right? How do you get over that with in-state prospects when it's been so deeply ingrained in them as they've come up in the state? It's a bizarre place to recruit, but I think Ole Miss, you're seeing a philosophical change, and we'll see what the results are, but a philosophical change as far as these next 2 classes because of how good the talent is and because Ole Miss needs to be that option, clear and obvious option for all of these kids. I mean, there's never a debate when a Louisiana kid that LSU wants, where's he going? You know what I mean?
Well, Devin Harper.
That's true.
Devin Harper.
But that's an outlier.
Jakeem Stewart went to USC. It's different now. I mean, like and you mentioned, you brought up we're going full circle here, right? you mentioned when Lane Kiffin flirted with Auburn, NIL money started pouring in. LSU, they lost Bryce Underwood. I don't even know if they finished second for Jakeem Stewart in the end, but they lost some big guys, and they kind of got a little ticked off. It seems like their pool has increased because they had a good portal class, but that's kind of the name of the game. We're in the final months now of this, like, at least what's been agreed to. We'll see if it carries through. What's been agreed to as far as the future of revenue share, legit NIL, allegedly, and allegedly, and we'll see. If the good old fashioned bagman gets the call, gets the tap on the shoulder again, because that's where people just still don't like to lose, and they don't want to, lose an edge, and that's where obviously NIL comes in. You've got the good old fashioned way, so to speak, but Ole Miss is in a good position long term with NIL, no matter what iteration of it appears to be headed toward. And that's the good thing for Lane Kiffin and his staff, that they can work with and work around. I mean, they have the number 2 portal class, very, very strong portal haul, and you don't do that without a strong NIL commitment. And on the high school side of things, as they start to prioritize it more and more, they've just got to continue to develop even more inroads with players, because you've got to balance that relationship piece and the NIL piece. Relationships get you to that top 3, and then most of the time nowadays, NIL. I had a player tell me straight up, I'm not going to name him, I left it out of the story, but his number was 300. That's what I want. I was like, all right, cool, awesome. You're highly recruited. You probably got I didn't say this to him, but you probably got a shot. I'm thinking that.
Yeah. What's your agent saying? What is your agent saying about your value? Because now it's just like, we'll talk to my agent about the numbers. Everybody's got an agent. It's what all the things that used to derail or used to be stories, like Larry Tunsil. Oh, he talked to an agent. Let's suspend him for 7 games. He slept on Chris Kiffin's couch.
God.
I mean, it's all nonsense, because
wasn't Des Bryant suspended for a whole year or something?
Todd Gurley's signing jerseys. You know what I mean? Now there's Cam so
Newton,
much.
Johnny Manziel.
The antiquated nature or the regressive nature of the NCAA's and its rulings has never been laid bare for how stupid they always were than now. Because the conversation used to be, hey man, what are you looking for to school? I want to feel like home. I want to do this. I want to do that. Now it's just like, what's the number? That's the starting point. It's like, what's the number that you're looking for? What number do they value at right now? And then once the number is where it's supposed to be, then the traditional recruiting factors come back into play. Then you can go, oh, well, this one makes me feel a little bit more at home. Now they met my number, and so did LSU. Now I can go, oh, well, I like the coaches here better. But 9 times out of 10, what's starting the conversation, if not 10 times out of 10, is what is the number? So, like that's that. But who's been better at doing that calculus?
Mm-hmm.
Who's been better than Ole Miss? Few schools have done it better. Risk assessment, target and value assessments, making hard decisions. I mean, they ended up with the running back room of Shakai Mills-Knight and Keywan Lacey and Logan Diggs and Jordan Simmons. Not because they didn't they liked those players, but also they brought other guys in and said, wow, that number is really big. Like the Hardy Cat that ended up in Missouri. Like that was done. He said, I'm coming here to start.
Yeah.
Right. And then he leaves and then goes to Missouri because Ole Miss said, well, for what we got and what we need, what he costs, it is very much a business-like approach now. And I'm thankful for it because there's no like boogeyman hiding in the closet going, nah, Laramie slept on Chris Kiffin's couch. Now he's been traded to the Commanders. I don't understand this, man. I don't understand. Did I do something to the football gods? Right? Like as a Cowboys fan, I've already had to watch Eli with the Giants. I had to watch AJ Brown with the Eagles. Now I got to watch Laramie with the Commanders. Now Sam Williams is a Cowboy, but Sam Williams has been hurt, and also he's not the same kind of Ole Miss rebel as Laramie and Eli. And all I'm saying is, I don't know what I did to you, football gods. I don't know what I did. There aren't any football gods.
You can't have a nice thing like
Jesus. However, I can't have any nice things.
Yeah, you can't have nice things when Ole Miss is winning 10 games in a year. And I will say something that is still very pure, Ben, at least appears so, is that SEC play in baseball, and that opens this weekend. as Arkansas faces Ole Miss.
Let's go. Judd Uttermark was on the podcast. He does Judd U, but really it's an amalgamation of Talking Champions Judd U now because he's in season. It's been hard.
Yeah.
And
Busy guy.
I appreciate him being honest about South Alabama. It's just kind of like, look, man, baseball is different than any other sport. Some games you can just get absolutely torched in a midweek by a team that's motivated. Their fans showed up. I don't think you read too much into South Alabama. This weekend, though, I think is important. Not just because it's the number 3 team in the country, but considering what Ole Miss has been the last 2 years and kind of what Judd touched on in that episode of Talker Champions yesterday. Go check it out on our platforms, Spotify, YouTube, pick wherever you get a podcast. Judd was talking about it. What this means for what Ole Miss is. It's a real true barometer for where Ole Miss is. Now, they've gotten some proven wins. Arizona is only becoming a better and better win. Clemson at the time was a good win. They've gotten good wins. They've battled back against a good Murray State team. I mean, there's a lot about, or previously undefeated at least. I don't want to pretend like I know if they're good or not. But when you look at what Ole Miss has done so far, even with the South Alabama black eye, man, it's hard not to be encouraged, but there are some areas still of doubt. How real is it? Is Hunter Elliott fully healthy? His velo was down last week, got hit around last week. If he comes out tonight and he's not throwing like he was at the start of the year, that fastball velocity is down again. If he gets hit around, if Ole Miss doesn't get started on Friday night, and then Riley Maddox gets tagged, I mean, just you want to see Ole Miss be competitive, hopefully win the series. But more than anything, does it look like a team that belongs? Because the last 2 years, it hadn't belonged. It hadn't belonged. And for the first 15 games of the year against pretty strong non-conference competition, they've looked like it. They've had the consistency and the efficiency of pitching. You've had the same 3 starting pitchers on the weekend every weekend. That's a strength. A bullpen that has emerging talents like Mason Morris, who's throwing 96 to 98 on the gun and dotting it on every single corner of the plate. There's so much to like. Luke Hill, again, having a great start. Ryan Mormon, a career 276 hitter at Illinois, has come out and been Ole Miss's best hitter through the first 3-4 weeks of the season. Judd Udemark, he stayed healthy. He's hitting bombs. He's following that Tim Elko track. There's so many encouraging things about what Ole Miss baseball is right now, but it doesn't mean anything if then you go into SEC play and you are the same program you've been for the last 2 years. That's what the concern is how real is it? Show you belong. And I think that's what I'm going to be most watching for this weekend. Less about the results. Don't get swept because, golly, can you imagine the Ole Miss Spirit message board? OMSpirit.com, affiliate of On3, sign up for $1. Or just the reactions from Ole Miss fans writ large if they get swept by Arkansas this weekend. But I don't think that's what this team is. I think they're going to be competitive. I don't know how many they're going to win. Of course I don't. But more than anything, outside of just don't get swept, go win a game or two, win the series. Do they belong? Are the games competitive? No run rule losses like you saw. Like I was most freaked out in the opening weekend. You had that encouraging game, Bill, against Arizona 2-1, and then the very next day, good competition, you got run ruled, right? So I'm like, oh gosh, here we go again. It's that insane volatility that it's untenable in college baseball, and they haven't had that again. The worst thing that could happen is for them to become that team against Arkansas. So just prove you belong, and however many games you win, 1, 2, all of them, none of them. I think we'll learn a lot about Ole Miss this weekend based off of how competitive they are against a team that they've always been in the same conversation and level or tier level of as long as Mike Bianco's been here. Ole Miss and Arkansas were considered rivals in baseball because they're always 2 of the final 2 and then the SEC West, right? They shouldn't feel like a Goliath, and they don't unless they come in here and take your slingshot and shove it down your throat. You know what I mean? Like then you're like, well, maybe it was so this is a big weekend to just continue the progress, continue to be the team that looks like it can not only be in the postseason. I think it's a postseason team, but host a game at Swayze, host a regional, host a super. Is it one of those teams? Are they back at that level, or have they just been window dressing for the first 15 games? I don't think so. But the South Alabama game, I'm just like a lot of the Ole Miss fans out there that went, whoa. Not baseball is baseball, man. Shit happens, but stuff happens. Sorry. But stuff happens. But like if you back that up with a terrible weekend series against Arkansas this weekend, man, can you imagine the snowball? Because you've seen it as an Ole Miss fan for the last 2 years, how it snowballed. I think more than anything, just show that you belong, be competitive, and ideally, of course, win the series, if not sweep them. But I'm tired of thinking, oh gosh, number 3 Arkansas is coming into town. Ole Miss baseball used to be the team that other teams went, oh gosh, Ole Miss is coming into town. Just be that team. Be that team that goes out there and shows who you are.
Well, and this series starts out 2 p.m. Central Time on Friday as the weather's rolling in. So we're thinking of everybody in Mississippi as the winds and potential tornadoes might be rolling in. So
you live in Mississippi. It's a threat of a tornado every single day you wake up. It's just the way it is. Most times it ends up not doing much, but when it does, it's scary. So yes, our prayers to everybody. But me, I'm less sweating the tornado than I'm sweating Ole Miss getting the brakes beat off of it by Arkansas baseball.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to say Arkansas or Auburn.
Well, the Auburn one is just a complete free shot. Like I think Ole Miss, it's going to be a fun game. I don't think Ole Miss is losing by 30 today to Auburn like it did at Auburn a couple of weeks ago. But baseball, like basketball, whatever happens, great, man, smooth sailing. You and me are going to the watch party for the Selection Sunday on Sunday. We're going to celebrate with them. We'll talk to my guy Jamin. We'll talk to all these cats, man. Baseball, we still don't know what they are. Yeah. We really don't. Because the SEC is a different animal completely.
100%.
It's always been like, and now that college baseball is more regionalized than it's ever been, these are the ones that people sign up for and say, hey, win these again. Can you go win? You imagine a series win over Arkansas with the way they've started. What it would mean what it could mean as far as a catapult or jumping off point for Ole Miss moving forward. There's just this series for me is less about, oh, you got to win 2 or 3, you got to sweep. No, I just want to see 2 of the nation's elite baseball teams that know they're elite and belong and always have belonged in that upper tier, knowing that this is just the start of a long journey that's going to last to June. I want to see that kind of competitive baseball. I don't want to see run rules. I don't want to see overmatched. Ole Miss has the pitching now. There's so much that is intriguing about this weekend series, and I'm eager to get it started. If for no other reason, then at least we'll have a much better idea, right? We'll know how healthy Hunter is because his velo was down last week. Does he go out there and stuff Arkansas? Man, that'd be encouraging as heck, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Same thing with the power that they were kind of worried about in the fall, and they've been smashing home runs. Can they keep that up, or was that flash in the pan stuff? There's so many questions that have to be answered, and they're not going to all be answered this weekend, but we can get a better idea this weekend.
I really want to dive into some questions I have about the cover of EA College Football 26.
Let's go.
Yes, closing out with this little fun chat here on EA's new cover. Lane Kiffin did make it in there. I guess everybody kind of flew to right there. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, everybody flew into the Rose Bowl, and Lane Kiffin spent his spring break, I guess, hopping on a plane to get out there. But this is quite the group. You've got Kirby Smart there. You've got Marcus Freeman, James Franklin, Bryce Underwood, the 5-star quarterback for Michigan, is the only freshman there. Of course, Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams. No Ole Miss Rebels players, but Lane's on there. I'd like to see Austin Simmons on it for 27.
Or Centarian Perkins, who
tied
for the Ole Miss lead in sacks last year and was among the league leaders in the SEC, who's coming back. He's what Harold Perkins was at LSU. You think Harold Perkins would have gotten left off the cover? Heck no. Well, now he would, because he's not, the same Harold Perkins he was. All I'm saying is Centarian deserves your recognition, college sports, in EA Sports College Football 26. But it's perfect that Lane's on the cover. It's perfect. This is a better representation of what college football, the vibe of college football, than last year's cover. Last year's cover just left a lot to be desired. And they picked a couple of players to kind of highlight. And let's be honest, they didn't do a great job of picking players. All right. Travis Hunter was easy, but like Quinn Ewers, God bless you. This looks like college football. Look at all of that pageantry. The duck right behind Lane is hilarious to me. It's just like the Oregon Duck. There's James Franklin with a dope PSU zip up hoodie, just mean mugging Bill. Look at him. Like he's just like he's got a statement to make. But Lane fits into that culture, in this cult of personality that is college football. And what better representative for Ole Miss on the cover than Lane. I mean, it should have been obvious. It was funny is my initial disappointment was like, what? No one gives Suntarine Perkins, in-state kid, 5-star plus. No one gives him the run. And then I saw Lane and went, okay, well, at least Ole Miss is represented. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the forgotten thing because Ole Miss has, like, you can't tell the story of college football from 2020 until now without including Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been every year a part of the conversation. That's a testament to Lane. He deserves that recognition. I'm ready for the Ole Miss, like, Jackson Dark's not a part of it anymore, so I guess Ole Miss doesn't have anybody. Man, my gosh, man. I mean, Suntarine Perkins is that dude. There's so many guys I could pick out. Austin Simmons in 27. That's a layup of, okay, come on. But Caden Lee deserved a little bit of credit too. My guy could, but look, I get why they put Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams out front. Of course. The fact that Lane's sitting back there, it's just it's great. It gets you excited about it feels more like college football than last year's title, last year's coverage, just because it feels like college football. Like when I saw the Tennessee dog back there and I thought he was holding the IU flag, like I was like, oh, this is college football. I'm glad they did it at the Rose Bowl. Now we're one step closer to what you and I have been talking about, Bill. Make the Rose Bowl the permanent national championship. Okay?
Ooh, that's good.
Make it the permanent national championship. Make it the place that, man, I'm just trying to get to the Rose Bowl. If you're taking a picture with all the representatives of college football in 2026 and you're taking it in the stands, no one else outside of hardcore college football fans know where they're standing. Honestly. It looks like it might as well be the Liberty Bowl, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So what I'm saying is like, make the Rose Bowl what it's supposed to be. It's the game of all games in college football. If this
best
is
sunsets, like all the pageantry,
the parade. I mean, the Rose Bowl is the college football game. I'm glad that they did it there. I wish they had just done a little bit better job of showing where they were, but I love that cover. I'm glad that we got to see it. We got it leaked. Suntarine deserved to be on it. I get why he's not because, I'm just an Ole Miss idiot. But Lane being on it was really cool. And if I'd have told you 6 years later after Ole Miss hired Lane would still be here and he'd be on the cover of the new college football game. That just sounds so unrealistic, right? It's like, oh, Lane's going to leave for another job in college football. That's never coming back. We're not. And here we are. So good things happening. Ole Miss is in the conversation. It's hilarious. And Lane has, he's going to go down as inarguably one of the greatest coaches to ever come through here, immortalized with a statue, and what he's meant for Ole Miss and bringing them through this era where it could have been very easy. Like, you don't see, and this is no disrespect, even though I don't really care, you don't see a state person out there. You know what I mean? Like, an Ole Miss and State were essentially could have been in the same spot. But Ole Miss has not only survived, not only kept its head above water, but thrived in this new environment. It's because of that man standing right there in the Rose Bowl steps that look like the Liberty Bowl, Mr. Lane Kiffin. So, hey, I've got some quips. I got some problems with some guys that aren't getting enough recognition, but that's for another day. Here it is again, further proof that Lane Kiffin changed Ole Miss for the better. And no matter what happens from this point forward, how many games they win, if they win a national title with Austin Simmons, if they never do, Ole Miss football is in the fight, is in the conversation every year. It was really cool to see Lane on that thing because, Little Ben wanted to do was see an Ole Miss Rebel, on the cover of college football. Like if
Eli,
Larry Fitzgerald deserved to be on. He actually deserved to win the Heisman over, Jason White. But Eli deserved to win it too. That's another conversation. But the bottom line is, I get why Larry Fitzgerald gets to see a Ole Miss coach and not even go like, why is he there? You know what I mean? Like Ed Ordron were on that. When Ed Ordron was here, like, why is Ed on there? Lane has just made Ole Miss a part of the national conversation every year. He's a part of the story forever. It's just really fun. It's really cool to see, and it gets you more fired up for football. Like basketball is my personal one of my Ole Miss basketball has just always been one of my very favorite things to watch and to follow along and to cover. And it's so much fun to see Ole Miss winning in March. But the reminder of, hey, football's on the way, and Lane Kiffin is still here 6 years. And yeah, they lost a lot, but man, think about what they got coming in. Keeping that conversation year round, keeping Ole Miss football as a part of the conversation nationally year round. It's a testament to Lane and where the program is. So it was really cool to see, man. But put Suntarine on a friggin' cover somewhere. That's all I'm asking. Maybe Caden Lee, but certainly Suntarine. He's earned it.
Baby steps, baby steps. Look, we're taking another baby step toward the start of spring ball. So join up, Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com. Just $1 for your first week. We appreciate RiverLand Roofing for all they do for us on Talk of Champions, as well as Status Jet. Appreciate all of you guys for listening on this Friday. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Getting ready. SEC tournament, Ole Miss, Auburn, in just 2 hours on the button. So hope we made your Friday fly by a little bit more. 4 hours from now, Ole Miss takes on Arkansas to open SEC play. For Ben Garrett, I'm Billy Embody. This has been a live Talk of Champions. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.
Sunday at Funky's.
Yeah.
Be there.